All right, so thank you everyone for coming and joining CEH for our webinar today. Next slide, Jose. All right, for this webinar, CEH is proud and honored to be joined by two amazing guest speakers. We'll be hearing from Alicia Culver, the Executive Director of the nonprofit group Responsible Purchasing Network. Alicia has over 25 years experience in green purchasing and is known nationally for her expertise in safer cleaners and disinfectants, as well as LED lighting equipment, recycled office content, office supplies, and more. We'd also like to welcome Alison Cameron, who's the Sustainable Procurement Coordinator and Solid Waste Policy Planner for the State of Minnesota Sustainable Procurement Program. In this role, Alison collaborates with both internal and external stakeholders to integrate requirements into the procurement process and ensures that bids are evaluated with the 3 pillars of sustainability in mind. From the CEH team, we'll be hearing from Jose Aguaya, who is our Senior Manager of the Green and Clean Procurement Team and has past experiences with providing technical assistance to environmental justice grassroots groups and as a research analyst reviewing information on toxic ingredients in food and personal care items. As a final introduction, my name is Bella Garcia, and in my role as the Program Manager for the Green and Clean Procurement Team, I support large institutions through the process of purchasing healthier and reusable foodware options. Next slide. On the agenda today, we'll first start out with an overview of EPP policies, including some brief background information on sustainability and product certifications. Then we'll move on to an overview of the 3 main product categories that CEH covers. These are going to be furniture, flooring, and foodware. We will then turn it over to Alicia Culver to cover our next product categories of cleaners and disinfectants, as well as provide some more in-depth information on the benefits of EPP policies and hear from a purchaser's point of view with Alison Cameron on the benefits she has seen firsthand in her state of Minnesota. We'll follow this up with some general helpful resources and a quick poll on what topics you would like to see covered in a future webinar, and close out with a Q&A session from our speakers. So the poll is now set to launch, so feel free to start answering some of those questions. Also, feel free to use the Q&A button to ask any questions that you would like to see answered at the end of this session. This webinar will be recorded and a copy will be sent out to all registrants, and additionally, all resources that we discussed in this webinar will be available on the CEH website. With that, I'll turn it over to Jose and we can begin our presentation.
Excellent. Thank you, Bella. I wanted to touch on a little bit on why environmentally preferable purchasing is important. So there are a number of different variables that really set environmentally preferable products apart. Sustainability, which is the management of natural resources in a responsible way, and low carbon footprint, for example, are some of the most commonly discussed factors. Social impact is also becoming a little bit more important lately, and however, toxicity is often forgotten, and it is one of the most important reasons why EPP is important, because we are exposed to numerous chemicals on a daily basis, really, some of which are quite harmful to health. So what makes a product environmentally preferable? Now, there are several factors here that really determine whether a product is. The product material, for example, whether the product is recyclable, compostable, packaging and frequency of purchase is another, whether we have orders consolidated, and the type of packaging material that is used are considerations there. Life cycle considerations as well. There are things like product durability and consumption of energy or water. And again, toxic chemicals is sometimes overlooked, right? But avoiding certain harmful chemicals in a product is key, really, to protecting consumer health and really achieving a circular economy. We will discuss toxics in products a bit more later in this presentation. So there are a couple different tools that large purchasers can start using to take advantage of environmentally preferable products, and product certifications and eco-labels are one of them. So these ensure really that products are meeting the environmentally preferable claims that they claim. It is important to note here really that third-party certifications are almost always preferable to those that allow self-certification for example. On a similar note, multi-attribute certifications are preferable to single attribute ones. Now, there are certainly some exceptions to this rule, especially when it comes to toxics. I think we'll touch on those later down. Another plus that certifications have is that they often offer a list or a database of compliant product. So another tool that we have are environmentally preferable purchasing policies themselves. Now, the goal of these is to really institutionalize the preference for sustainable products within an institution. So once a purchaser, a purchasing institution has decided to really implement one, they can help to clearly define what constitutes a sustainable or non-toxic product, for example, and also to ensure that the purchasing decisions set by management are followed through, right? So these two tools are really important. So now I want to move on to really the section where we touch on product categories themselves. As Bella mentioned, we have 5 different categories that we're going to touch on, and the first one is furniture. There are some common toxics found in furniture. CEH has identified what we call the hazardous handful, 5 really categories of harmful chemicals that are common in furniture. Flame retardants is the first one. These are chemicals that are added to slow to slow or prevent the fire in furniture, and really to meet furniture flammability standards. In actuality, these chemicals really do not prevent or slow down fires at all. And some of the health effects that they have are things like decreased fertility, hormone disruption, lowered IQ even. They're not something you want in your furniture. The second one are antimicrobials. And these are chemicals or agents that are intended to kill or suppress the growth of microorganisms. And again, like flame retardants, research really has shown that these compounds really do not work or do nothing to prevent the slower spread of infections. And they often have some really nasty health effects as well. Reproductive problems, endocrine disruption, allergies in children. Again, chemicals that are really not needed. PFAS is another set of chemicals that are often added. These are toxic chemicals that do not really break down in the environment. And some of the health effects that are associated with them, there's really too many to name. Certain cancers are associated with them. They alter metabolism and fertility even. Really, really bad family of chemicals there. PVC is also commonly used among furniture. And some of the health effects around that really range from throughout the product's life cycle, really. Production emits large amounts of greenhouse gases. Transportation can lead to disasters like East Palestine, for example. And disposal through incineration releases even more harmful chemicals into the air. They're a really big problem among furniture. And the last category are volatile organic compounds, VOCs. The most common one being formaldehyde. These are used in adhesives, for example, and some of the health effects include throat irritation, headaches, and even kidney damage. So these are definitely chemicals you want to avoid in your furniture. Now, we have some certifications that we at CEH have can really vouch for in this sector. So the 3 major ones are the ANSI BIFMA 744 credit, the Targeted Chemical Elimination Credit, which matches our technical specifications. Same with the Green Health Approved certification for furnishings. Again, both of these match really word by word CEH's technical specifications on furniture. And the third one being Green Screen Certified for furniture and fabrics. This one's even more health protective certification that can also be found. These are some of the resources that we want to share within our furniture sector. Of course, we have a database of healthier furniture. It contains more than 2,000 products. that are third-party certified and meet all the specs that we noted. The second ones are technical specifications themselves, and these provide language that purchasers can use to include in their invitations to bid or requests for proposals. And the third one is a toolkit that we compiled of all our furniture resources, and they're intended to help purchasers make the switch to EPP furniture. These are, I want to switch over to our flooring now. In terms of common toxics, there are some similar concerns as furniture. There's a couple different ones. The similar ones are PFAS, PVCs, and flame retardants, for example. There are a couple others that stand out, really. BPA being one of them. BPA and its analogs like BPS, these can be used to create epoxy resins, which essentially are adhesives. And they're really powerful reproductive and developmental toxicants and endocrine disruptors. The other one are orthophthalates. These plasticizers are often used in laminate flooring, for example, and vinyl fiber carpeting. Now, some of the health effects associated with these are asthma and also kidney toxicity as well. A third one that's important to note is SBR, or styrene butadiene rubber. Now, this particular rubber is produced from a copolymer of styrene and butadiene, and it is used to make adhesives as well, and as coating for hard surfaces sometimes as well. Now, there are several adverse health effects associated with this, including cancer, for example. Styrene and butadiene individually are carcinogens themselves, and kind of the chemical interaction that they make often creates volatile compounds that can release formaldehyde, for example, and even polycyclic aromatic compounds as well, PAHs. So yeah, those are certainly the chemicals to watch out for there. Some of the recommendations in terms of certifications that we have, again, certifications that match our technical specifications, specifically are the Green Health Approved Resilient Flooring Carpeting certification. The gold level matches our certification, our specifications completely. And it's important to note that the silver is also matches ours, with the exception of the SBR, the styrene butadiene rubber. It does not cover that. Now, it's important to mention also Cradle to Cradle, the platinum and gold certification there is a very good certification that touches on multiple sustainability attributes within flooring. However, when it comes to chemical restrictions, it's extremely lax. It's not as restrictive as we would want it to be. So it's important to note that. Now, these are some of the resources we have when it comes to flooring. Again, our webpage of flooring tools is the first one. We also have our technical specifications, again, with language specifically that can be added to bids and RFPs, and our technical specifications there as well. With that, I will pass it on to Bella to touch on foodware.
Thank you so much, Jose. So there are many common toxins that can be found in foodware, especially single-use foodware. One of the most common examples are single-use petroleum-based foodware products. So this can include a wide assortment of items, such as styrofoam takeout containers, yogurt cups, cling-wrapped deli items, and many, many more. Some of these chemicals can be found in these items, including polystyrene, which can release styrene into the food. CEH actually did testing on this, and we did find traces of styrene leaching out from polystyrene containing products. Styrene is considered a carcinogen by the WHO. And additionally, you can find other toxics such as BPA. This is known to cause hormone disruptions and can have a wide variety of negative health effects on the thyroid, endocrine, and reproductive systems. Another area to watch out for would be the molded fiber products. This material is commonly used to make takeout containers or plates, and while these products may look like they could be made from only simple plant materials, there are still tons of chemicals such as PFAS that are added to the slurry. This is with the intention to add properties such as waterproofing to a product, but these chemicals still can leach out into the food and cause these negative health impacts. It is also important to note that even some reusable products can still contain plastics, and these plastics can still have these toxic chemicals that can either leach into the food or shed microplastics. Next slide, please. Thank you. It can be difficult to navigate the current foodware market, and so CEH recommends the following certificates to help ensure products are safer and to aid in the use of product sourcing. The first certificate would be Green Screen Certified. This is a certificate specially created between CEH and the Clean Production Action for both single-use and reusable products. So products under this certificate must disclose all intentionally added chemicals down to 100 parts per million and may not contain any chemicals found in the restricted substances list. This is a list of potentially hazardous chemicals that includes chemicals such as PFAS, bisphenols, and phthalates. Another recommendation for this area, especially for areas that have commercial composting available, would be the BPI certified products. This ensures that a product has been independently tested to be fully certified, fully commercially compostable, and additionally, these products do not contain PFAS. Next slide, please. So some information for purchasers and manufacturers or vendors. First one on this list would be the Green Screen Certified standards. The website links here are for both the reusable and the single-use foodware certificates. So these links here will include information on both the standard itself, so you can get more information on what this standard includes. That'll also include a quick fact sheet just for an overview of some of the facts that will be presented. And additionally, it will also include a product database, so you can sort and see which products are currently available under both the reusable and single-use certificate. Another resource that can be helpful is CEH's recently updated Ditching Disposables 2.0 toolkit. While this toolkit is mostly aimed at helping K-12 schools move towards reusable foodware options, there's tons of information in there that can be applicable to other types of purchasers as well. So this will include information such as fact sheets on these harmful chemicals if you want to stay more up to date on the science behind why these chemicals are harmful, or also just to be more informed and be able to present a better argument for why this switch is necessary. Additionally, there will be purchasing information in there as well that is applicable to other larger purchasers as well. The last resource we have here is our purchasing recommendations for the Sustainable Food Serviceware. This is a piece created by CEH in collaboration with the Sustainable Purchasing Leadership Council. So this is a guide to how to purchase sustainable food serviceware. And so that's a link there to help see the guide, get more information, and as well, this includes some product specific recommendations as well. And so with that, we'll turn it over to our guest speaker, Alicia Culver, to deal more into the cleaning chemicals and toxins.
Great, thank you, Bella. So in cleaning chemicals, it's probably no surprise that there are lots of toxic chemicals in them. Some of them are asthmagens, such as ammonia. Others are linked to toxicity in organs or cancer. And some of the chemicals also, such as nonylphenol ethoxylates, are linked to endocrine disruptors. A few products we found actually have PFAS, typically things like floor polish and even some toilet bowl cleaners. So those are things to really look out for. Next slide. But the good news is that you don't have to be a chemist and you don't have to go through stacks of safety data sheets, which we used to have to do 20, 30 years ago. Instead, these organizations, Green Seal, Safer Choice, and UL under their Eco-Logo certifications, do that work for you. The standards are slightly different. Green Seal and Eco-Logo restrict a lot of different chemicals, and Safer Choice actually has the flip side. They approve specific products that can be in cleaners. So if you're writing specifications for cleaners, all you have to do is say required third-party certification by one of these organizations. Also, Green Seal and Eco-Logo are mostly institutional products, whereas Safer Choice are more likely to be the products that you're going to find say in a hardware store or office supply store. So look for products with these labels. Next slide. As Jose mentioned earlier, one of the benefits of having using and referencing third-party certifications is that each of these three organizations has a registry. And so that means you can go in and see what products are available that have the certification. I did want to just mention that Greensill just did some rebranding. So you might see some products with the old eco label on the left. They're now moving towards this newer eco label for their products. But each of the organizations has this registry, and you can typically sort by product, you can sort by company, and so it makes it easy to find products. You can also match the products to those products that are on your either offered by your vendors or on other websites as well. Next slide. So now I want to transition into disinfectants because it's a different approach with disinfectants. For a long time when green cleaning products were being promoted and policies were developed around this for schools and government agencies, they essentially said, we have to exempt the disinfectants because disinfectants are typically not eligible for third-party certification, although that is starting to change. But there are lots of chemicals of concern in disinfectants. And so actually with City of San Francisco, who about 10 years ago, I worked with them and another technical team to start to really look at being able to come up with a way to specify safer disinfectants. And what we found is in certain types of disinfectants, primarily chlorine bleach, which is used very widely, and also quaternary ammonium compounds, there are lots of chemicals of concern. With bleach, the primary thing is there are studies after studies showing that the use of chlorine bleach causes occupational asthma, which means that custodial workers can develop asthma when they didn't have it to begin with. It's also corrosive to the eyes, has a very high pH, and it contributes to aquatic toxicity. Quaternary ammonium compounds, which have often replaced bleach, also are on the asthma list as respiratory sensitizers. So every single quaternary ammonium compound is linked to asthma. They're also corrosive, and they have the they're also known to concentrate in sewage sludge, and they are the type of disinfectant that's been linked to superbugs, meaning that they can make antibiotics less effective. Next slide. Luckily, there has been a lot of work in this area, and we have been able to develop recommendations for being able to specify safer disinfectants. And the approach that we take is not necessarily using a third-party certification, although EPA's Design for the Environment program has certified some products. We typically look at what is the active ingredient. An active ingredient has to be listed on the label, and it's the part of the disinfectant that kills things. And so what we know is, well, the bleach and the quats are linked to asthma primarily, and the other health effects that I mentioned, these active ingredients are not. So citric acid, ethanol, hydrogen peroxide, and lactic acid, these active ingredients are not linked to cancer. They're not linked to asthma. And so they're considered to be safer active ingredients by multiple entities. So when we also do the disinfectants, we want to make sure that they work. So they need to have an EPA registration label. They need to at least kill COVID, and EPA maintains a list of COVID-19 disinfectants. And that's actually a pretty low bar. And we also don't want aerosols so that these things can be inhaled. Next slide. The good news is we have some resources on this topic. There's an article that I wrote in the middle of the pandemic, the height of pandemic, for schools called Green Cleaning Can Help Schools Safely Open. And we talked about how to do safer cleaning and safer disinfectants. And also, RPN's been working with Stop Waste in Alameda County, California, to develop some simple fact sheets that you can use. They identify the minimum requirements. Again, for cleaners, it's on the third-party certifications. And then if you want to get greener or safer, you can look for products, for example, that are fragrance-free. If you want to save money, you can look for products that are more concentrated and again, and not in aerosol containers. And these are guides that are publicly available. So this is the one for cleaning products. Next slide. On disinfectants, actually, there is also a similar fact sheet, but we've taken it one step further and been working both with CEH and with Stop Waste to develop a list of products that actually meet those requirements. They have only those active ingredients. They're not in an aerosol container, and they are known to kill COVID-19. And this database is quite extensive. This is only a snapshot of part of the different fields that we have, but it tells you who the manufacturer is. There's a link to the product. It tells you what the dwell time is for and what types of bacteria it kills, as well as viruses and fungi. And so there's all kinds of information. This is not posted yet. It is coming soon. So we'll keep you posted on when this is available, but we expect probably within the next few weeks. Next slide. So I wanted to just end by talking about some of the step back, some of the benefits of adopting an EPP policy, an environmentally preferable policy. Many entities have adopted this. Usually it's a state government, local government, also some businesses, but we'd love to see more of those. And we do on our website actually have a sample policy if you're interested in doing that. But by doing that, it is really putting your organization or your jurisdiction up front, saying we are leading by example. We are going to make sure that our dollars are spent in a way that is environmentally sustainable. And some policies go further and get into social responsibility as well. But it can help your jurisdiction or your organization to come into compliance with environmental laws, support businesses that offer these safer products, create markets for things like recyclable materials or other safer products, and importantly, to protect the health of the workers and building occupants in your facilities. Next slide. Specifically for environmentally preferable policies, there is an emphasis on adopting language and commitments to protecting the environment. And so reducing the toxic chemical usage and releases is something that you can focus your policy on, preventing greenhouse gas emissions, avoiding deforestation, lowering waste generation and disposal. These are just some of the environmental protections that you can look to promote in the goals of your policy. And that can be by specifying and purchasing products, things like reusable water bottle refill stations, buying electronics that are certified to be lead-free. There's many different ways that you can focus your EPP policy and many things that you can do with it. And next slide. One of the benefits that's not talked about with environmentally preferable purchasing is the ability to save money. A lot of people think that if you're going to buy environmentally preferable products, it always means that the products are going to be more expensive. But actually, we've seen many examples of where environmentally preferable products save money, particularly on a life cycle basis. So they can save money by reducing product replacement costs when you buy reusables, as well as longer lasting products. So you don't have to buy the cheapest thing, and you can save money by not having to continually purchase single-use batteries and single-use food serviceware. There might be an upfront cost, but in the long run, and usually pretty quickly, you can get a cost savings. Many environmentally preferable products have lower energy and water bills. Those products are more efficient. Maybe they're Energy Star certified, and you can quickly recoup any upfront costs there as well. Some products have lower maintenance costs. Because things like LED lighting, for example, which also doesn't have mercury, and so you reduce disposal costs, they can last 2 to 3 times longer than a fluorescent lamp. And so they also, they don't have to be changed out as often. They don't have to be purchased as often. So you can calculate cost savings associated with those. And then avoiding waste disposal costs is another thing that you can calculate. And especially if the product does have toxic materials, you can get a significant reduction in waste disposal costs. So we put this all together for the state of Maryland a couple of years ago. And so I put a link here. There is a webinar on this topic, how to save money by buying green, and also a fact sheet that you can download and share with people within your facility. So hopefully that'll help you to make the business case for adopting and implementing an environmentally preferable purchasing policy. And I'm going to hand it back over to Allison.
Great. Thanks, Alicia. So I'm going to talk about a couple categories today, furniture and foodware, and discuss some of the benefits of making those sustainable choices. But I did want to highlight that my predecessor in my role worked really closely with Alicia back in the day before, you could find disinfectants with third-party certifications, and they've been banned from our contracts for 5 years now, which is really great. Next slide, please. So first, I'm just going to highlight the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, where I work. The MPCA's mission is to protect and improve the environment while enhancing human health. And this aligns really closely with our sustainable purchasing goals. Our vision in Minnesota is to have clean air, water, and land that support healthy communities and a strong economy. So we're lucky to have this holistic view. It shows us that a thriving environment is essential both for our natural landscapes and for our communities. The choices we make in sustainable purchasing directly contribute to this vision. By supporting environmentally preferable purchasing, we actively participate in the mission to safeguard our environment and public health. The MPCA's work really reinforces this commitment through my work and also the other work that my agency does. Next slide, please. So the state of Minnesota defines sustainability as meeting present needs without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. This concept is built on the 3 pillars of sustainability: economic viability, social responsibility, and natural resource preservation. We have to align our purchasing decisions with these principles to create a healthier future. Equity has really gotten involved in our work. It's a top priority for our governor. You may have heard of him lately, Tim Walz, and our lieutenant governor. They're both really committed to guiding our sustainability efforts. They recognize that climate change disproportionately affects marginalized communities. And so as a state, we strive to minimize our impacts across all of our government operations. So this is our governance model that you see on the left side here. So it integrates sustainability to ensure that no aspect is overlooked. So the governor and the lieutenant governor set the vision, while a steering committee of agency leaders hold us accountable to be making progress. So this transparent approach facilitates collaboration and oversight at all levels of our government, enabling the integration of sustainability throughout our operations. Next slide, please. So our state spends, it was reported last year, fiscal year 23, that we spent $3 billion on our goods and services. So our team integrates sustainability into the spending, mainly through contract specifications that are developed by our Office of State Procurement. These specifications focus on durability, energy usage, as well as end-of-life considerations, and some other factors as well. We also use cooperative purchasing agreements with other states through participating addendums. I'll provide a little bit more detail on cooperative purchasing in the next slide, but first I wanted to highlight an additional strategy or a few additional strategies that we use to enhance the sustainability of our purchasing through policies and laws. So in our agency, we have specific policies such as catering guidelines that are aimed at reducing single-use disposables and focusing on reusables. We also have agency-specific policies to establish stricter requirements, such as our 100% post-consumer content paper requirement at the PCA. The Minnesota legislature passed some really significant protections for our environment and human health in this past session. A statewide phase out of PFAS will begin this January in 2025. It's prioritizing the removal of products used by children, removal from menstruation products, upholstered furniture, and a lot more. So our legislature also passed an extended producer responsibility bill that will require all packaging sold in the state to be recyclable or compostable by a future date. Next slide, please. All right, so our purchasing decisions have a ripple effect on the health of state employees, but as well also our community members. So with a presence in facilities like veterans' homes and hospitals, we have the potential to significantly impact the health of those vulnerable residents. So it makes it essential to implement really strong contract requirements. Our Office of State Procurement runs a cooperative purchasing program that we shorten up and call CPV. This program is available to eligible entities, including counties, cities, towns, townships, and school districts, as well as some other organizations. So this cooperative purchasing takes advantage of economies of scale, often leading to lower prices and improved terms and conditions. We have CPV members all across the 50 states and Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. So even minor adjustments in these contract requirements can have really significant impacts at a national level. We have a responsibility to procure products that are safe and sustainable, and partnering with organizations like Center for Environmental Health provides us with up-to-date information and guidance for safer purchasing choices when third-party certifications either aren't available or they're not easy to understand. So as mentioned earlier, the BIFMA 7.4.4 criteria, I really relied on CEH to navigate through that for our furniture procurement strategy. So this led to safer indoor air in all of our state facilities as we're upgrading our furniture. It's not off-gassing with some of those flame retardants and other things. It prioritizes the health of all of the users, and this ranges from infants to the elderly. Next slide. As a sustainable purchasing coordinator, I've gained significant insights into the different products that our government procures, but I was really unprepared for the complexity of furniture sustainability attributes. They're extensive and they're really multifaceted. So fortunately, I was able to work with Judy and Jose from CEH, and they helped me navigate how to apply BIFMA's 7.4.4 criteria to our furniture contract options. These BIFMA standards are essential for ensuring that furniture is durable, meets performance benchmarks, and that it's not a counterfeit. Additionally, I received a lot of really valuable assistance in identifying textiles that focused on targeted chemical elimination. Next slide. So what CEH helped me with next was developing a tiered system for furniture procurement that would enable all of our purchasers to select items meeting sustainability criteria or to choose products outside of that scope. So these would be things that aren't eligible for that criteria, such as lifts for standing desks or power strips. So any user on our contract can order those in our state without any additional approvals. However, items that don't meet the sustainability criteria that they might need required some additional agency leadership approval. So this tiered approach ensured that all of our state agency users can access the furniture that they need while prioritizing sustainability whenever possible. Next slide, please. I'll focus on foodware for a moment. Lots of institutions continue to rely heavily on disposable plastics, which obviously generate waste and pose health risks. Rather than merely promoting less toxic plastic options, we're taking an approach to prioritize reuse. PFAS, commonly found in food packaging, has been a significant concern. Cookware, which will be included in the first wave of PFAS prohibitions starting in January. We've already started transitioning out of our state contracts, so we're really prepared for this prohibition, but we started that work in 2017. However, we have to remain vigilant as there still will be regrettable substitutions in our current selection of disposable foodware. Our federal government takes an approach of innocent until proven guilty on these things. So we turn to organizations like CEH for help navigating that. So to safeguard both human health and the environment, we need to consider our dependence on these disposables. So we're advocating for the inclusion of reusable stainless steel trays, plates, bowls, cups, and other serviceware in our foodware contract. These are used in our schools. They can be used in hospitals. So really vulnerable users that could be really impacted by some of those added chemicals. Next slide, please. So as I wrap up here, I just want to encourage each of you to consider sustainability in your purchasing decisions. There's obviously a lot of ways you can go about it. So every choice we make has a significant impact, not only on our immediate environment, but also on the broader market. To increase our sustainable purchasing, we can drive economies of scale to influence manufacturers to prioritize sustainability. The more people we have committed to sustainability creates a ripple effect that encourages others to follow suit and also makes those products less expensive and easier to find. We have a responsibility as purchasers to conduct research on the products we choose, but it's complicated. So it's great that we have organizations out here to help us. Understanding the sustainability attributes of what we buy ensures that we're making informed decisions that align with all our values. Next slide. Okay, and that's it. So hopefully you have some good questions for us that I have answers for, and I will hand it off.
Great, thank you so much. And just as a quick wrap up, here are some other resources we think might be helpful. These are a little bit broader resources than the ones discussed in our specific product category sections. So the first one up here would be our City Health Eco-Friendly Purchasing Resource. This was a resource created by City Health. This is an organization that CEH collaborates with heavily to help cities across the nation have more eco-friendly purchasing guidelines. So this has a ton of different resources in it, very, very helpful. And then the next two resources were from Alison Cameron related to the NASPO information she shared earlier. So definitely feel free to hop in, Alison, if you have any other comments you want to make about these resources here.
Yeah, so I'll just point out that NASPO, it's really easy to use those contracts from an institutional standpoint, and you can establish a purchasing or participating addendum, and that's where we really got into setting some environmental standards for how our agency users use that contract.
Can I just add too, I have worked also with some states to add environmental requirements. So for example, if you're using like an industrial supplies facility maintenance contract, like Granger, things like that, you can restrict it so that all the cleaning products that are on there, you only have requirements just for the third-party certifications that we mentioned, or all the lighting equipment must be LED. So that is really the place where people can put the specifications in. Also, NASPO is supporting states to do green purchasing projects. So if anyone is interested, please let me know, because we could pull together a project with you to develop a policy or develop specs or look into some product category in more detail or do a training, things like that. So NASPO has been very supportive in moving in this direction.
Thank you. Next slide, please. All right, so one final slide before we move on to the Q&A session. We are hoping that this webinar turns into a full series on sustainable purchasing policies. And so we're hoping that this poll will help lead and guide future webinars on this topic. So please feel free to use the poll option right now and answer this quick question, and then tune in for the next continuation of the series, and hopefully more information will be more geared to what the folks in this webinar would like to see. So thank you again so much to our speakers. Thank you again so much for our attendees, and we will now move on to the Q&A session. So feel free to drop some questions in the Q&A session, and they will be answered live here by our hosts and the CEH team.
Yeah, thank you for that, Bella. I'm looking through the questions right now, and we have one submitted here. Let me try to answer it. So the question asks, where's the data research for the fluorine causing asthma and kidney issues? I think it's referring to the orthophthalates that I mentioned that were a concern among flooring and carpeting. So the research there was pulled from a bunch of different sources, including EPA itself, the ATSDR, as well as published research from NIH. I would be glad to share that with whoever answered the question or whoever asked the question. I don't know exactly who it was, but hopefully, if you want to, send us a chat question or identify yourself there, we can send you the links and any information relevant to that.
And also too, I'm happy to share out the CEH's procurement email, so you can feel free to ask any questions there as well if there's any other information you want us to deep dive into.
Excellent. So I have another question here. Let's see. Recommendations, any recommendations on learning what the other ingredients are in products, and should we be concerned we are unable to find that information? I think that's a very good question. Should we be concerned that we're unable to find that information is probably the key there. I think product declaration sheets are a good source of finding that information. Now, they're not always available. So I think that's probably where demanding a little bit more transparency from suppliers and manufacturers is where an area of growth is, right? In terms of recommendations for learning other ingredients, I think some of the certifications that we pointed to are a good source. A lot of these certifications look at individual, whether it's chemicals or families of chemicals, and any that are deemed at least egregious are usually filtered out. Now, specifically, the certifications that we mentioned earlier are probably the ones that we can point people to. There are several others for the product categories that we touched on, but not all of them are as comprehensive as the ones that we noted. So I think I would point people there.
Jose, can I add something on this
Alicia, go
topic?
for it.
Yeah. So California and other states, including New York, have started getting into this issue of full disclosure. We know that there's not a lot of regulation around safety data sheets for things like cleaning products. And so California passed a right to know law that requires all companies selling products in the state to post full disclosure. So you can often find them on the website for the products. So that's one thing. And then just to echo what you said about the third-party certifications, even though they may not always disclose, although some of the certifications do also require full disclosure, they get the information. They do that work to make sure there's not hidden ingredients in there. and then they do the certification based on that. So they wouldn't just look at a safety sheet. They require full disclosure. They often will look at the, the information, the ingredients, the recipes that are in there. Sometimes they'll go to the factories and make sure they're doing what they say they're doing. So relying on those certifications, they're all getting the full ingredient list. And so that's another reason to specify products that have a third-party certification.
Thank you. We have a couple comments or questions right now relating to Minnesota. So one is asking about the purchasing policies that encourage reuse, for example, the Minnesota Materials Exchange. And their question is around old goods that might still be toxic. So basically, can you elaborate a little bit more on this program? How do you ensure that these products are still safe? Yeah, any information on that would be great.
Yeah, so I actually just was chatting about this week. We want to encourage reuse. So our focus is mainly on new products. That's the scope of my job. But as a state, our approach to that is if there's known toxicity with old products, dispose of it properly. But for the most part, yes, we're going to assume that like fabrics have off-gassed and other products have completed their off-gassing by the time they would be with the reuse recipient.
Thank you. And then another kind of follow-up question. They're asking around the food serviceware category in Minnesota. Do you have any information on what Minnesota is currently doing to source food serviceware? What certificates they might be using for this type of material and product category? So yeah, if you could just dive into that aspect.
Yeah, so we have a couple contracts for that. We have our compostable contract, so everything needs to be BPI certified. It's all been PFAS free since 2017. Gosh, and so then for reusables, we eliminated a certain plastic. It's escaping me now. So we're
Probably melamine.
Yes, that was one thing that we got off contract. And we're switching more to more preferable materials. But there is still a demand for plastics. So those are still there. We do have to cater to our many, many users.
Is there a specific material that the reusables are looking to move towards in these contracts?
Our new desired material is stainless steel. It's very non-reactive with food and doesn't leach into the food. So we've been really focusing on trying to get that. We are working on getting it incorporated into one of our state contracts currently.
And they're asking specifically if they're using green screen certified certificates for this food serviceware.
Yes, we have not applied green screen to, I would have to check.
Mm-hmm.
I can't confirm. I can follow up if the answer is wanted.
I think in a lot of cases, like what we've done is because there's only one or two products that have been certified by Green Screen, we reference the same standard and are monitoring the Green Screen list to look for products that are available. But right now I know that list is really limited. This is something San Francisco has also looked into and Stop Waste. What are the toxics in reusables? I think people for a while just said, as long as it's reusable, it's better. But we're starting to realize that some of those reusable products contain ingredients like melamine, which is problematic. So we're, EPP is one of those things that evolves over time. And so we just keep moving the window as we learn more, as we have more resources, we can start continuing to improve the specifications for these products.
Oh, and I did pull up our contract. I'm not seeing green screen in there. I think that is something that we attempted to. It's kind of a negotiation. If there aren't enough products out there, we usually can't incorporate it. So that didn't happen.
People can put it in as an additional desirable as a way to encourage vendors and manufacturers to get that certification. A lot of times when a certification is new and there's not a lot of products, we can't require it, but we can certainly point industry in that direction and encourage them by saying, if you did do this, we would give you additional points and we would give preferences. And so that, then when there's enough products, like with cleaning products, there are thousands of products, so we can require it. But when there's only a few, we can encourage it.
And that's great. That's actually what CH is doing right now with the nonprofit we're coordinating with called Plastic Free Restaurants. They help provide funding for the purchase of reusable food serviceware, and they have a similar thing where they have a stipulation that they will be moving towards 100% green screen certified in the future. But for right now, it's a recommendation, and it's to help push the industry forward and to push that recommendation forward in the meantime. All right, we have one other question of how long did it take to get the PFAS ban law passed?
I know that the way it was written was introduced this year. I'm not sure if it has been introduced in past legislative sessions, but there is more information on our website, so I can share that link with lots of info. We were really lucky this past session. We had a democratically controlled Senate, House, and governor, so we got a lot of really great environmental forward legislative passed.
And again, too, I will say at the end of this session, we'll be sharing out some emails, so definitely feel free to reach out if you have any further questions after this presentation as well. We have time for a couple more questions, so feel free to put some in the chat if there's anything you would like us to answer live in this session.
There is one question I'm seeing about asthma-friendly cleaning products. Do you want me to answer that one? I was just writing something up. Okay, so asthma-friendly, in my mind, that means that the products don't contain any asthmagens. And all three of the certifications that are listed restrict any chemicals that are linked to asthma, any respiratory sensitizers. Typically, they are referencing a list by a group called the AOEC, the Association of Occupational and Environmental Clinics, and they maintain a list of respiratory sensitizers. In terms of the chemicals for medical settings, we always want to use cleaners and disinfectants. You want to clean first and then disinfect, because if you don't clean first, the disinfectant often isn't going to work. And many of the disinfectants, so any of the cleaning products can be used in medical settings. The disinfectants, many of them are medical, they're broad spectrum. They have better efficacy than bleach and quats. They work in a shorter period of time. They kill as many, if not more, bacteria and viruses and things. So I would say the ones that are typically used in medical settings that would be considered asthma friendly are the hydrogen peroxide based disinfectants. They have great efficacy. They don't have any asthmagens. And so that's where I would start if I was working with a medical facility.
Great, thank you, Alicia. If we have any other questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I think we have a couple more minutes left. I think we have one more. Maybe this is a good one to kind of touch on our with our speakers. So what's one action that that we can take today to work towards a more sustainable world? Any of our speakers want to take a crack at that?
Pass a policy first. That would be the first step in getting commitment and actually setting up a green or sustainable purchasing committee. We see a lot of policies that get adopted, but then don't get implemented. So you really want to engage all different entities. You want to engage your policymakers. You want to engage the people who are on the ground buying these products. Many of them actually have expertise on the technical requirements. So in some of the jurisdictions that we've worked with, when we develop specifications for, say, cleaning products, we brought all the custodial supervisors in, because you don't want to develop a specification and then don't have the buy-in and they don't use it. Sometimes they're concerned, so you can do pilot testing. So I would say, create an engaged green/sustainable purchasing program, including a policy.
I think that's a great suggestion there, Alicia, because we've worked with a couple different cities and even states where EPP policies have been passed for a number of years, but implementation is always the challenging part, where just cracks in the system are shown, and I think sort of getting the buy-in that you noted is extremely important, and having a council that oversees that is an excellent next step to take.
And don't recreate the wheel. We have a policy, a model policy on our website. There's lots of specs that are out there. I saw somebody from New York State, which has been doing a great job at developing specs, updating specs. If you're a smaller entity and you don't know what to do, use the resources that are out there, developed by many states, Minnesota, Massachusetts, Maryland, Washington State. I saw somebody from Washington State is on this call as well. And they have already done a lot of the work to figure out what third-party certifications are applicable to each product category. And obviously the NGOs like CEH and RPN and SPLC use the resources that are there and don't try to recreate the wheel.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Alicia. I think we're at the top of the hour. I think if any other pressing questions are around, I think we can certainly look into them. I think we can close out our poll now.
Oh yeah, thank you everyone for answering the poll. You have a couple more seconds before I end it, so if you haven't already, please feel free to put in your responses. But thank you again so much for attending. We will be having future webinars based off of this information. As a sneak peek, the top 2 categories that people want to hear more about are the foodware product category and also policy language and writing. So we'll take that information, and the next future webinar will likely have something to do with one of those 2. So I wanted to say quick thank you to everyone for attending this webinar. Amazing thank you to our speakers. Excellent information. I feel like this was very, very informative, and thank you so much for your time. We will be putting in our emails into the chat here if anyone else wants to ask any future questions. We're definitely happy to help, definitely want to be responsive. This webinar is recorded. It will be sent out as a recording to everyone who registered for this webinar. Additionally, it will be put up on the CEH website with all of these resources that we talked about in this webinar with the slides today. So feel free to check out the email and then also CEH's website as well for more of that information. And I'll turn it over to anyone else if anyone else has any thanks or anything else they want to say, but we can close out soon.
Thank you so much to our speakers, and I think we stay tuned for the next series in our webinar.
Great. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
all. Bye-bye.
Bye.